thank you for that very kind intro. And I guess to intro the rest of the panel, we should probably have them do it themselves. So, Alec, do you want to tell us who you are?
Hey guys, my name is Alex Stone. I work for Soul Assembly. We are a XR game studio. We've done a few titles like Drop Dead to the Cabin and Home Invasion, which is a mixed reality game on Quest. We've also done games on, well, one game so far on the Apple Vision Pro, Soulspire. So yeah, that's what we do.
And for the benefit of our audience, do you want to tell them how you made it into the games industry?
Oh yeah, good. So I had a very, I guess, unorthodox introduction to the games industry. So I started off just as a developer. I was a data engineer for a while, a web developer, making bots and stuff. And then I got into VR just out of interest and through some fortuitous links in the Open University. So I started doing some medical simulations there for nursing, some research and development through there. I went on to do other jobs in, what was it? I guess civil engineering with HS1, and then later with events in VR, and now in games, which is my favorite.
Excellent. And Aaron?
I don't know how I'm going to follow that, to be honest, so I'm going to try. I'm Aaron Odie. I work for Rebellion Studios. We're kind of a multifaceted company. We have a lot going on, games being one of the priority. We also do comics and other things like that, but I'm mostly in the games department. I suppose I'll just continue on from how I got into games.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there trying to get into games, so I think it's interesting for your audience.
I've been speaking to them all day about it. Yeah, how I got into games. I didn't go straight into games industry like most. Yeah, it's difficult to jump straight in. I started on product design and development, prototype design and development, sorry. Yeah, it's hard to describe. It's not great for a panel to try and be like, oh, this is what I did. But it was a lot of different things on frontline new software development, code stuff, a lot of new stuff which doesn't have docs, doesn't have anything, which is fantastic. But that led on to some like 3D projection games on buildings, some work with museums for interactive projects, and then county council stuff, and working on government projects like sensors and fishery service to track things. From there, I then moved into Rebellion, where I've been for a while, on their live ops department, which is taking post-production, fixing all bugs for after life cycle stuff, and general small DLC projects and other projects like that. Yeah, I've rambled on long enough.
And Shaba.
Okay, hi, my name is Chaba, and I run Spoonchamer. Spoonchamer is a video games outsource operation. Basically, it means that we work for other companies, and then we help them when they need programmers or any other kind of game support. We mainly specialize in backend development. It simply means that it's stuff that runs on the servers somewhere in the cloud. But also we do game development as well, which is putting the games together and fixing bugs and all that. We also have an indie game studio where we make our own games. The idea is that we make games that make a difference. And the first app we have, or game we have, is in soft launch in the UK. It's an app for small children, and it's about bees. It's called Flatstone Grove. It's lovely. How did I get into the industry? I think I'm going to have a fairly long or fairly short answer to that.
Let's go short.
It's going to be short. So originally, I'm from Hungary. You can hear it on my accent. And I am a mining electrician. It doesn't sound like much, but basically, I always wanted to do computers. I was 10 years old when I first saw one. It was a Commodore 64, and I was absolutely blown away by the pixels on the screen. And I knew that I was going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. And then it was just teaching myself assembly, programming, and visual effects and all that. And then when I finished university, some of my friends came to me and like, oh, we're starting a game studio. Do you want to join? I'm like, what the hell is a game studio? And then I joined, and a few years later I came to the UK, worked for Codemasters, Freestyle Games, and then I started my own 8 years ago. 8 years and 1 day ago. Ooh.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
I guess I should do me as well. So yes, I'm CEO and creative director at Maverick Games. We've been going for 18 months. We are building a AAA open world game. Currently got a team of around 62. Also looking to double that team size in the next year. So if you are looking to get into the industry, reach out. And I got into the industry in a relatively conventional way. I went to university and did a university placement with Evolution Studios, who would then offer me a job when I'd finished my degree. So a good path in there, fairly straightforward. I guess we should get on to talking about the future of games development. And as it is 2024, we have to start by talking about generative AI and the impact, or not impact, maybe, that will have on our industry. Shall I go first, or does someone want to go first?
I don't mind going first.
Go ahead.
I was in a panel about AI yesterday. So I have a very two-faced view on that one. On one side, the technology person in me is like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the best thing ever. Have you guys used AI for anything? ChatGPT, probably. If you use Google Gmail, you probably have used AI. If you use Google Maps, you definitely use AI. There is a lot that is AI-driven. Now, when we say AI in the gaming industry, we say the generative AI. It basically creates stuff for you. Now, these days, AI systems are capable of generating images, videos, music, sound, speech, code, if you want, narrative, as in text, in different forms. It's absolutely magic when it works, but still early stages, so it makes a lot of mistakes. Try to generate a hand image. You'll see what I mean.
Or teeth?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it is. On one part, it's magic. On one part, it has to me, it has a novelty factor in that a lot of the things about it are impressive that it did it, but not necessarily useful. And I think that this has been a case for a lot of AI development over the last few years as well, where the early part of that development is striking and amazing and magical, and it seems to have come out of nowhere with the technology that you just didn't think would be possible. But then it reaches a point that is still kind of behind what a talented person could do, and therefore of quite limited value, because, oh, it's cool, wow, it did that. And I think the example that I use is ChatGPT 4, which is very impressive. If you asked it to write you a script for the next Spider-Man movie starring Tom Holland, it would write you a script, and you'd be like, wow, that's amazing that it did that, but you wouldn't want to watch that film. And the film that you would want to watch would be written by a team of excellent writers at Disney. And I think AI is going to keep butting up against that being novel and interesting and exciting that it's done these things, but not able to actually replace a talented person. What it does do is lifts the capabilities of a layperson up quite a lot, because if you weren't a writer then, and you wanted very quickly a script, hey, it got you one really fast. So it's interesting that it closes the gap between the experts and the novice, but I don't think it overtakes the experts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess we could also argue if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that gap we're so quickly closing? Because I feel like as a junior coming in, if you don't spend that time doing them fundamentals, you lose a lot. And then what in the future are we going to lose from people who've taken these shortcuts to cut half of their development, personal development, and them fundamentals, like I said, especially for code-wise. If we get a new coder that's taught by ChatGPT and online resources and all this, yeah, they could produce a nice, pretty game real quick, but if they're working on, like you said, stories, actual gameplay, they don't have that knowledge base to build from. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? But I do see benefits in quickly iterating forward, especially for, like, I suppose, less code side, but more art side.
Yeah, totally. So I would follow that up by saying, I think a good way to think about it is the current state of generative AI is you can easily make derivative works, and then you can remix that derivative work. So there's a paper that I came across recently about basically how the trajectory or the assumed trajectory of AI. people think it's going to be exponential, but there is an issue with creating novel generative content because you need to have an unreasonable amount of data to achieve that. So there is a possibility, and I don't know how it's going to be for the next 2 years, let's see, but it seems to be pointing towards we have to rely on derivative works and then iterate that on ourselves. So there is still very much a point for humans to be part of the process. We can innovate. And coming back to your thing about Spider-Man, it would feel eerily like you've seen the movie before. I think that's kind of how you, if you see like an image that's been made from like, I don't know, Stable Diffusion, it feels like you've seen it before. There's nothing fantastical. There's nothing like, particularly pushing the envelope with these generation tools. Maybe there will be in the future, but I think we still haven't figured out how to do that yet. And it's not just a case of more data equals, more innovation from AI.
Yeah, because along with more data, well, you need a lot of data. I've done a few tools that do machine learning for predicting what an image is. So I can't say what the thing is, but it predicts what's on the screen. And the amount of data you need to just get a functional model is insane. But then to step it forward to if any bit of difference happens, what happens if there's now a third thing in the image? Your model falls apart. It's so specific to your needs that is it a useful tool? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to do, like I said, going back to art, if you're like, yeah, I want concept art for, well, all the artists probably don't like hearing this. If you want a quick this, which one do we think is better? Oh, I like this one. And then you can give it to an actual person. And they can develop it further into an actual idea using their experience, I feel, is kind of where it might go.
Yeah, and I think there's loads of places where it can be a really useful tool in situations like that. I think there is a school of thought, and there's definitely a little bit of this at GDC this year, that we're about 18 months away from not needing humans in the development process anymore. I think those people are snake oil salesmen, and
yeah, we just saw what Devon AI. They released a whole big thing about like coders, your jobs are gone, and it came out it was all fake. So like, we don't know where we stand at the moment. I feel like that indecision and unknowingness is a bit uneasy in the industry.
Yeah. And so, Aaron, you're saying that with the image detection, we're still going to be able to prove that we're not robots by identifying which picture has the staircase.
So. I'm working on one right now that we can. It just clicks on the screen randomly.
That'll probably get through most of the time, given how bad capture is.
So one thing that I probably need to add, I'm on the pro AI tools side of things. I use AI for everything and anything that I can. And there's a reason for it. So when I think of our small indie studio, there's 10 people, and we need to produce that much work. And AI gives us a boost. And I'm a fairly experienced programmer. I hate reading documentation. AI does it for me. I can ask it, how does this work? And it can tell me. Even better, oh, how does that work? Write this for me. And then I get that working. That is insane boost in productivity. So from the programmer's perspective, if you talk to programmers who use AI for programming, it can be, when it works, it can be amazing. Really, really, I would say probably 100 times booster in your performance, productivity-wise, which is insane. For art, if you see what I can draw, you don't want to see what I can draw, but now I can speak to artists as to what's in my head and how I communicate it to them in a visual way that can give them direction that, oh guys, run with this, because this is what I'm trying to tell you, but I don't have the words or the ability to draw it. So the art AIs are really, really useful. And I found the most useful AI on the planet yesterday when Facebook blocked one of my posts because I said thank you in a comment, and I wrote a song about it. And it's really catchy.
Is it a derivative song?
It's completely original.
Yeah, I think you touched on a point there, which is a magical implementation of it, and ChatGPT is good for this. Where if you had a problem in engineering where you just can't quite work out why this bit of code isn't working, a historic solution would be maybe to look in a textbook, and you might have 6 textbooks next to you that you'd have to spend 15 minutes finding the chapter and going, oh, that's the thing. ChatGPT can tell you that in 15 seconds rather than 15 minutes. There is the slight problem that it removes the incentive for anybody to write textbooks if there is no one buying them because they're just using ChatGPT. I don't think our world has really got a solve for that problem yet, where it removes the incentive to create if ChatGPT can kind of get you the answers. I think is a secondary problem, though. I think there is other ways to solve
I
that.
suppose that leads on to, yeah, even if they are making textbooks and making all this knowledge base that we can use, is that knowledge base correct? Because if fundamentally what we put in is what we get out, large image models, large text models, if you have bad data coming in, it's common phrase, bad in, bad out. Yeah, if your code's really bad and you say document this, you're going to get some bad documentations that say, oh, you should be doing this, but that's not correct. But yeah, I feel like you said, tools for a job. It's like, I wouldn't expect a mechanic to use a hammer for everything, if they're a bad mechanic. But if there's like specific tools that use AI, that's the way Google use Google AI in Maps. They use it in this. They use it in this. If we have we feed in all this knowledge that we know is correct, and we go, okay, what's the answer? They go, there. That's a great use of AI, but it's making that decision what's good and what's bad.
I'd like to also say, Shubert, exactly. I think as game developers, I think in the tech industry in general, like we've adopted AI at this point, like for better or for worse. I certainly use it all the time at work for anything and everything. And so, like, yeah, it's a tool that currently has a lot of value to be used. I think the thing I would like to say is that the future of AI, it's uncertain. It might not be like this insane, like forever going crazy kind of thing. But certainly at the moment, it makes sense to learn how to use those tools and to implement them into your workflow. And if you're young, to have an opportunity to actually, use them in your nascent years of being creative.
I suppose who actually uses AI on a daily basis? I know you do. You said you do. Do you?
Yeah, maybe daily. I don't know.
I don't touch it whatsoever.
Some people.
we
I'm not going to speak for everyone on the panel, but like,
Yeah.
I am conscious we have talked about AI quite a bit, and this isn't actually the subject of this panel. But we did touch on a thing there which I think is very relevant to the future of game development, which is the time-saving, cost-saving element of Gen AI. Because games cost a hell of a lot to make, I think many would say they cost too much to make. And the problem that you have two solutions to that problem. You either sell more games, and obviously, presumably, everyone is selling as many games as they can, or you reduce the cost. And Gen AI is a solution to that. If you can times 100 your productivity with it, then definitely that's going to make things cheaper. But we should also, I think, discuss other kind of emerging trends, emerging technologies. If this panel had been taking place 12 months ago, we'd probably have mentioned NFTs, but that bubble burst. You're in VR, and I think that still counts as an emerging. It's certainly a growing technology, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, should we talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
In each of our fields? Yeah.
Yes. So I think, yeah, the interesting thing about VR, for sure, it had its moment in the same way that maybe NFTs or crypto or now AI had. But the benefit of where we are now with VR and XR in general is that it's settled into having its place somewhat. And so we're in a time now where we can innovate and we can iterate with the current tech that we have. Of course, there's still loads of work to be done on the platform entirely. I mean, I really think the meaning of VR as a title is kind of like a promise, because it's not very much like what you'd imagine virtual reality to be. It's just a thing you put in your face and your things that you waggle. But the fact that you have that, and it's a really interesting new way to interface with games and experiences, I think that, yeah, that's going to be the same kind of trajectory that you see for, say, AI. People right now are speculating on how good it will be in the future, and then they'll find its use for it. VR is very much at that stage right now where people are innovating and having fun making games with it, and hopefully that's reciprocal with the audience, and very much feels that way.
Any emerging tech affecting your guys' lives?
Not really mine, no. Traditional mobile console, that's the stuff.
Should we talk about blockchain or something? That's just a thought. Let's not talk about blockchain.
See, my mind's gone blank now of like, what tech do I use on a daily basis?
So I went there with tech thinking that, well, there might be things in your lives, but if not, then let's talk about process, because this is about the future of game development and how we're going to see that change. I think we've all been going through the kind of post-pandemic change, and that's really changed the way almost all studios operate, which has led to process changes and also culture changes. What experiences have you guys seen there, and where do you think that's leading to, I suppose, to keep us on topic?
Okay, so for us, my companies, we are remote companies. We have been remote companies way before the pandemic. One of the interesting change that happened after the pandemic, everyone suddenly understood what remote meant. It was much easier to kind of talk to other people about, oh yeah, we work from home. Oh yeah, we work from home too. That's brilliant. In terms of where it's heading, well, our partners, it's pretty traditional. People to work in a creative industry, you need to get people into the same space. This definition of space is up for discussion. In our case, it's going to be a Zoom room. Zoom is a communications application we use. So we get them in there, and then we can do ideas. Other people prefer in-person interaction. Games companies are famous for having really nice offices as well. So you may want to just spend some time in those spaces, and that are designed to foster creativity as well. And then building on top of that.
So the company that I work for, Soul Assembly, are absolute champions at caring for their staff and their well-being and their differences and the way that they would like to work. Of course, there are hybrid models of working. Some people are remote, some people are not near Leamington Spa, but a lot of people do work in the office, and the office is a fantastic place to work. I think just generally the games industry, you'll find some of the nicest, most dedicated, passionate people that you'll find in anywhere, really, not just the tech sector. But to work at the office itself as well, it's a different experience from being remote. So I would say it's a great idea for the industry to have this kind of the hybrid model, because you get something from being at the office. You get the collaboration, the immediacy of being able to talk with your colleagues and to just vibe with them and just create things off the cuff and just talk about problems that you have. Often just talking about your life and being conscious that everyone has their own life outside of work. And I think that's the key thing about having the office, is that you can experience people in a very much more human way than you would have just doing a Zoom call, although it does have its benefits being at home. And then having that Zoom call, you have the convenience of being able to work in your own tailor-made environment, which a lot of people really appreciate. I have a very specific environment where I have a big monitor, and I don't ask about it. I probably don't need it anymore with VR headsets, but yeah. It's too big.
It didn't seem that spicy. But I don't want to know more about big monitors.
I can't really have that at work. So what?
It's like a projector screen? We'll talk about it later.
But yeah, anyway. No, the point is you can have your own setup at home, whatever that is, like a desk or a chair, the stuff that isn't necessarily afforded to you at the office. Of course, you can ask for it, but generally, it's a different experience. And I think it's beneficial both ways. You get more of a social experience when you're working at the office, and then when you're working at home, you have your own setup, you have your own ideal kind of way of working. And that's what's really I agree with
almost everything you're saying there, Alec. I think there was almost a dual reckoning for the industry. We had the kind of anti-crunch movement, which was very, very needed, and that was actually a very similar period to the start of the pandemic. And I think what the pandemic did was really raise the awareness of mental health and the impact that your working setup and working environment could have on your mental health, because I'll admit I struggled with mental health during the pandemic, and I think probably a lot of people did. And that then led to I think, a real change of philosophy after that. Certainly for us at Maverick, where we're a new studio, without any legacy or a kind of process that was historic that we kind of need to stick to, we were able to really think about how do you build your development processes to really give people the best working life, the best mental health setup, the best support. And we built a culture around that to try and make people really feel kind of good and happy about being at work, whether they're in the office or working from home, because we are hybrid as well. But I do feel like that was a product of kind of the collective trauma that everybody went through.
Like a forced experiment, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. It was a collective trauma that then leads to a reevaluation of the way that we've done things, and that's then led to us really trying to think about how we can build our studio such that it really protects against those things. Obviously, you can't protect against another pandemic, that's not a game studio's job, but we can protect against the mental well-being of our teams, or at least as much we have the ability to affect that.
So I guess I'm coming from the complete other side, where I came in to a pre-structured company to be like, this is what you got to kind of deal with it. But thankfully it's hybrid. But like you said, I feel like a lot of either gone fully remote or fully hybrid. But I choose to go into the office. No gun to my head. I choose to go there, and I see the benefit in, like you said, going into the office. There's that environment where you can socialize, because that is a big downside. And I've heard it from a lot of people that work fully remote and not hybrid, that you just end up sitting in your room all day, go to bed, get up, especially with rent increases and everything. You're in a small apartment somewhere, bed's probably right there, you're just back and forth. And going back to your point about mental health, if there's no initiative from a company to push for that, it really is damaging to someone.
Yeah, totally.
One thing that I probably need to add, which is similar to your point, is so in our 8 years, what we found is not everyone is suited to work remotely. And it's really important to, whenever you get offered a job that says, oh, it's going to be fully remote, it sounds amazing, but you need to be completely honest with you. Can you actually stay home every single day? Can you live on video calls every single day, not meeting a single person every single day? And if the answer is no, and even just the tiniest ways, you probably want to consider a different type of job. It's really important.
I would follow up to that as well. Commuting is kind of like the other side of that coin, isn't it? So, like, if you have been given a job where you're just outside of like the catchment, say, for like driving there, is it worth like driving there every day? Like, is that gonna, is that
like
an
hour
gonna
a day,
take it
like
out of you? Yeah.
2 hours if there and back, it adds up, and it's
But this is the good thing about like having the option to hybridize.
I suppose that also leads on to job opportunities. With the switch towards a more hybrid, remote approach to games, you expand your opportunities tenfold. No longer do I need to be like, I need to move here, I need to go there, I need to relocate every time I get a job. I'm like, oh, well, I can start for a company down there, do my 6 months or whatnot. If they want me down there, I can move. But there's a lot more opportunity just to get that initial experience, especially as an entry level into the games. I can really all admit, entry level in is pretty hard. It's not fun. It's a daunting aspect. And anything to ease that transition into experience, to professional experience, to a full-time role somewhere, and then you can find out kind of what suits you best: hybrid, remote, full office.
Yeah, I mean, totally. As well, especially important for entry-level jobs. If you find a job that you really want to do in your entry level, you have to make the decision if you're going to be able to do that. And I would advise that you do. I would advise that you do push yourself for that initial, period where you're sort of fresh on the scene, and then, like you say,
especially with like families, like if you're switching into games industry later on in life, you already have families. You might have a pet. You might have kids in school. You might have a lot of these things that you're like, am I going to uproot my life? And that person might be incredibly talented at games. They might be a great programmer, but if they can't relocate, they can't relocate. And that entry point to be like, yeah, I can do games. I enjoy it. They'll take that step then, and that's better for everybody in the long run. Like,
Double
your staff. Like,
it's a much more international industry now, isn't it? It's much more common to have team members from all over the country, all over the world, all contributing at the same time.
Also, we shouldn't discount the UK's unique layout in terms of video games industry. So we have these video games clusters in the UK. So if you're considering getting a job in video games, there are a few areas that, you know, moving yourself in that generic area, you know, getting to uni in Manchester area or getting to uni in the Warwick area, then you will increase your chances to land a local job, and you'll know the area, and then you recognize we have like 100 video games related companies in Leamington area. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's completely absurd, isn't it? If you just walked through Leamington, that would make no sense that it has, you know, a similar number of companies as like San Francisco. All right, so I talked a little about the cost of game development, and that is a problem. It is a problem that needs to be addressed one way. One thing that has been happening over the last few years that obviously you'll have good familiarity with is co-dev. And the reason that co-dev is great for those that's co-development for people that are new to that, where you have another team help out with the main game team. That is a solution to a problem that we used to have in the industry, and some places do still have, where teams just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll have 200, 300, 400 people on a game. And there'll be points in the process where you need 400 people on the game, but there'll be points on the process where you need 40. And you suddenly have 360 people that are now taking a full salary, but aren't able to actually be productive during that time. And that's where co-dev comes in, which I think is a little bit more like the movie industry, where a team will come together for making a movie. They'll exist for that one project, and then they will disperse. And I think that is a way that we're starting to see games change. I guess you have some experience in that arena.
Yeah, so the way that works, at least from the way we do it, is so you start building your game. It's, as you said, you know, as it gets more complex, as we go to production, we get to a state where we need a lot more people, and then companies like ours, we say, hi guys, we actually can help with certain things, and then we have a discussion. Now, we have, internally we are, for all intents and purposes, a proper games company. We do have different disciplines, we do have different seniorities, we have career paths, we have all of that. The only difference is that we only tend to work on a game for a shorter period of time. So let's say we join your project for 6 months. And then we are clear that after 6 months, we're going to go and find something else. So it is a bit of a risk from our company's perspective, but also it's an insane opportunity for everyone to work on a number of games, learn a lot of new things. And in terms of self-improvement and the sort of knowledge you gain is uncomparable to work on the same game for years and years and years. We've seen so many things. We have so much knowledge that we can bring to the table. And anyone working for us will get that sort of training. And they can learn from people who've seen everything. It's amazing. And that's one of the big opportunities. The other area is going back to the tooling, that it's interesting when we work with partners, we are severely restricted by their rules. So, you know, if the partner says no AI, even though I really like AI, then we don't do AI at all. But when we work on our stuff, then we are free to kind of use the knowledge that we gained and then augment ourselves with the latest and best technologies that we have.
You guys got any experience of New World game dev, bringing teams together? You don't have to, it's fine.
we have, I mean, in the sense that we have sometimes, other, like contractors coming in. I mean,
I think, I guess I'm meaning more in, I think the space that the games industry is moving towards, where you have perhaps working at Spongehammer, a really specific specialist, but a specialist that doesn't actually have 3 years of work to do on a 3-year game. I think the ability to have co-dev partners that can bring in and plug those gaps is a solution to the kind of growing cost of games, because old world, you just hire that person, you just live with the fact that they don't have enough work to do, but you need them because at that point that they do add value, you bring them in. I think that is a thing that we'll see more and more of.
Yeah, and I think now that the games industry is a bit more mature than it was, say, like when I first had the glint in my eye of working in it. Yeah, I think we have a lot more specialists. We have a lot more, technical artists, people like sound designers, and like everyone who's very specific in the production line for games. Bringing them in to fill in the gaps is certainly important. I think a lot of the time, like, you can kind of think of, like, I don't know, a sound designer is like the drummer of a band kind of thing. Like, they're so elusive and yet so vital to the end product being like of high quality. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly has changed a lot, especially like nowadays we have courses in games design development.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 5-10 years ago, nothing. You'd have to search high and low, and that's why there's such an influx of like different disciplines from people longer in this industry. There'll be physics background, X background, Y background. So it certainly is changing towards an industry as a ground level to end goal. Like,
Yeah, I think as well. Like, I mean, obviously, some people in the room will be looking to get into games. I think the kind of summary you gave out was actually a really nice way of looking at it. I think there's a really good kind of personal growth opportunity within that.
Sorry, one thing that I need to add, again, just a bit more information. So the way we described code development is, we have these small teams joining here and there. I just need to mention that there are code development companies that have 14,000 employees in the world. I'm just saying that as well.
And you could be one of those. You could be one of 14,000. Sorry.
make it sound so magic.
That's actually a really good point in terms of the future of games development. So, Maverick guys say, we're going to grow to 60, and then there's going to be a point where we have all these like really large team working on the game. What if you go the completely opposite way? What if you have a small team and you make games really quickly with the small team? You make games that people actually want to play. And that's an actually large part of our industry at the moment, indie games, which we shouldn't really discard because they make some really, really lovely experiences. You can play, enjoy, and again, that's a way in. And with the ease of access to the technologies, it's really easy to get started.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been on the floor in the show for the last couple of days, and there's just so many kids that are still in school, maybe some of them are in this room, who've already made games. They've already like made whole experiences, and they are like 13, which is kind of incredible.
Crazy.
Yeah. The light has come on, which means it is time that we throw to the room, literally throw, I am told. It is time for a Q&A. Hopefully there was some useful and enlightening information in there. But if you have any targeted questions, feel free to raise a hand. Okay, this is an easy one. I'm told if you talk into the top of the cube, it will amplify you.
All right. So, Alec, is there something different about designing a game on VR rather than a more conventional means?
So, excellent question, by the way. We use pretty much exactly the same tech stack up until the point where you interface with the VR. So we're using Unity for the most part, and Unreal for the most part, which is what you use for most other games. There are add-ons to those engines that you use to actually get it onto the headset. Basically, you can learn game development and be a VR developer later. The fundamentals of VR development is just game development, across the board. So, very good question. To do VR, you have to learn a little bit more on top. There's a bit more, especially with like XR, and like there are a few more concepts with like mixed reality and like spatial stuff. But for the most part, yeah, you can get really far with just the game development side of the stuff.
All right, and now that you hold the cube, I guess you get to choose where it goes next. If anybody wants to raise a hand if they have a question.
Are there any types of games like you found that people prefer over other types?
It depends on the person, I would say. There is a lot of research. So our industry, we make games for everybody. No, it doesn't mean that I make games for everybody. I make games for a group of people that I think would enjoy the sort of games we make. So the way we start making games is we kind of sit down and we have an idea. And one of the things that we need to consider is who would actually play that game? So would it be young people? Would it be old people? Would it be girls? Would it be students? Would it be people like me who like playing alone in their room? Would it be people who like playing with others on the internet? There's all sorts of considerations. I would say there's pretty much a game for anyone and everyone in this room out there in the world.
Yeah, and certainly there are games that are very popular that a lot of people want to play, but it's not always a good idea if you're starting out on a journey of making a new game to be thinking about what is the game that everyone's currently playing, because that game already exists. And instead, you should be considering what are the motivations, the personality types that are going to lead to a space that maybe is a little bit empty. So if you were setting out on a journey to try and build a game, maybe don't just look at the games that already exist, because Fortnite and Minecraft have already been made, but there will be another game like them that hasn't been made yet that you might be able to make, but I wish I knew what that was, but I don't at the moment. So.
One of the really good exercises, if you think about making your own game, is pick 3 games that you like, and think of a game that is like all of them, but it's not any of them. You know, what you like from all, and then try to make something that is a little bit of each, and you'll see that what you make is going to be different from each. And this is how games are made.
I suppose going on that different view on sort of types of games that people like more, I think the type of game people like more also sways with just the time and the culture of the moment. You'll see like huge trends where they're like battle royales, and they'll dip and die off. Because I feel like people are always chasing like the new thing, and then there's like you said, there's don't make a game that everyone else is making, because, or don't make a game that you see people playing, because there's probably 20 other people going to make that game, and you have a huge influx, and that changes. So I think the types really vary in time. Like,
there's also a case for, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad game. You just have to iterate on it with, so you have to make sure that you have people playing it. You have to make sure that you get people telling you what's good about the game, what's bad about the game, and then you can kind of work on how to improve that game and actually make it enjoyable for the people that you're making it for.
All right, shall we move the cube? If you can launch it over here. There we go, and whisper into the top of the cube and we will all hear you.
What other tips would you give for new game developers?
Okay, I'll go first. So, can I have a clarification? Are you looking to get into the industry, or are you looking to make a game? And I'll frame my question differently.
I'm wanting to make a game with some of my friends.
Okay, cool. Then, first and foremost, I would say don't chase money. If you're making a game with your friends, then don't worry too much about whether it's going to make money or not. Instead, set on this to try and learn and have a really good time. And if it's the first game that you've made, then the thing that I would be looking for is to try and find the part of game development that you take the most fulfillment and joy from, because then maybe that can be the space where that could become a job going forwards, or that could be the thing that you really could have a real passion for on future games. If it's your first time, I would be trying to do more than one role on that game as well, which, if there's only a few of you, you'll definitely have to do. And try and get a feel for different areas of the experience. But top level point, don't be going into this thinking that you're going to make money. That will probably lead to disappointment, and also it'll change the decisions you're making. You won't be doing it to learn and have fun. You'll be doing it to make a business, and that'll come later. You'll have opportunities for that later in life, but you don't do that for your first game.
So I think exactly what Mike is saying. Find your place, and I'd say a great place. Have you been doing any game jams? Have you been looking into doing any game jams? Or anything
No.
like that? So I think that's a really good way to sort of experiment with what you're good at and what your friends are good at, and to do like a short, go on itch.io, there are jams there like all the time, constantly. You can pick anyone, they have different like themes, whatever, they're great. You do enough of them to figure out what you were all good at, and then you can make something that you're proud of eventually. The first few games will probably just be like, oh yeah, it was a good idea, it didn't come out. But like eventually you'll make something and it will be fun, and you'll realize where you're fitting into the process.
I think carrying on from that, I think, excellent points. It sounds like a bit of a downer, but give up on a game. I feel like I've seen a lot of people push and do more and be like, oh, this game does this more. At a certain point, you need to just say no. It is what it is. You're never going to get perfection, especially your first game. but you'll have something fundamental and tangible that you can. I made this. I see the flaws. I enjoyed the process. I learned what I want to learn from this, and now I'll make something else, and I'll build and start building from things. So, yeah,
I think that's a great point. And I guess that's kind of what I was saying about don't try and make money. As soon as you think, oh, we're going to sell it, now it needs to be 5 hours long. It needs to. Does it need to have multiplayer?
Yeah.
Does like
who's my backers? What's going to happen here?
Yeah. If you're never thinking about selling the thing, then you instantly don't have to do a load of work, because it's okay for your game to be 12 minutes long if you're just making it for you and your mates.
And if it's bad, you're not going to make a good game sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be bad, but you'll see little aspects. You're like, I can see what that can be.
Yeah, I have a little bit more practical side to it. So if you never made a game, then first have an idea. It's important that the idea you have, don't think like I'm going to make the next Call of Duty, because that game takes £100 million to make and hundreds and hundreds of people working on it. So what we call is try to define the scope, what the actual game is and how much is realistic for you to do. Even if we do game prototyping, that's the sort of thing that we do in small teams, we try to keep it to be the absolute minimum that it's enjoyable. So go for that. The second thing is make sure that you and your friends have a role. Who does what? Talk to each other. Very important. If everyone keeps progressing in different direction, then you will have something that doesn't come together as a game. But if you regularly talk and you regularly make sure that everyone understands where we're heading, what we're doing, then you will build the same thing. We're not building 10 houses, we're building one house, a brick at a time. Also, don't be afraid of failure. Many people don't start making their own games because, oh my God, maybe I won't finish it. Oh, it's just a wasted effort. Every single thing you do in making your game, you learn something new. The next time you would do the same thing, you would do it differently. You would do it better, faster, or even a completely different way. So making games is as much about the journey as about making the game.
So philosophical.
Oh, that's really, great answer. Great answer. Any more hands getting raised? Oh, up at the back. Go on. Can we go that far? Well done.
So, do you think that like mixed reality could like really affect the world and could take us across different places in our solar system as well?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think there's already apps that do that. I think this is just a thing that everyone dreams about. It's like floating in space and seeing those planets up close. But yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things with MR right now where you have, I think with HoloLens, you had these holograms that you could place around your room. I played around with that, and I did have planets, and I had like other very dogs and wild animals just around my room, and it does actually enable you to. It is a bit of an expanding experience for your mind, and I think MR is a great way. And VR is a great way to express that kind of those fantastic ideas. Yeah,
cool. Was there a question in the seat next to you? Was that?
So, what do you think was the worst game you've made and the best game you've made, and explain why you think that?
If you're talking about the worst game that you've made, I guess it's all the ones that I didn't end up making.
Oh, that's such a cop-out. Even shame, man.
I'll say the worst game I made was Forza Horizon 2 presents The Fast and the Furious, which was a tie-in game to Fast and Furious 6, I think, in which we kind of hobbled together a Fast and Furious light experience based on about 20% of the Forza Horizon 2 map. We did give it away for free for a bit, and then it was sold for a bit, but it was the fact that it was free probably said something about the confidence. It was an experiment, I suppose. Best game for me was Forza Horizon 5.
Oh, the best game for
See,
me.
I listed a commercial game that was actually sold.
See,
Then,
he
by the
named
way.
and shamed.
The best game is the one I'm working on right now, which I can't talk about.
Smart. I'll do the same. Now I'll go completely different. And worst game. Yeah, I have a lot of bad games. There's a lot of them.
Come on, you got to say one. Come on.
You'll never know it because it's not unpublished. They're the ones that I hate the most, but not like actual like AAA or big games, but they're the ones that I've made that I'm like, I really hate this. But it's the ones that I'm also most proud of, where I'm like, I can see where I've learned, and especially going back on older projects. I'm like looking at the code I do now and the code on all them really bad games. I'm like, well, it's night and day. But again, that's another cop-out.
Okay, so for me, the worst game I made is, unfortunately, you look quite young, so I can probably not say the name of the game, but it's about these giant robots. There is an AI trying to take over the world, and it's in the future, and there's a resistance. It's a film, if you know that sort of film. Big shiny giant robots with these scary faces, that sort of thing. So we made a game about that, and it wasn't a very good game. It was horrendous. It played really bad. It was badly written. It was clunky. The reviews were horrible. But I really enjoyed working on it. Everything. We were learning how to make those kind of games. We've learned how to talk to the film industry while doing that. In those days, we didn't have game engines like Unity and Unreal that we have now. So we had to write all the technology that we did. So we created a game engine like Unity. I was part of the team who was making that sort of technology for the team. And all of that learning that I managed to accumulate in that process enabled me to find a job in the UK later. So again, even though the game was absolutely horrendous, it was a really positive experience in the end. Now, the best game, it sounds really weird, but for me, the best game I've made was the one that we are working on now, which is Flatstone Grove. And the reason for it is because I managed to build a team with the loveliest of people imaginable. It's just a super nice bunch who really love to make really cute things for children. I mean, we had a task the other day about a ladybug bathing in a honeypot. Hello?
To be fair, some of the kids' games like you make, they're the funnest. The weirdly say like a big AAA, oh yeah, shooting guns, blah blah blah. Like I made a little board game where you roll a dice and little bears go around paths. I'm like, that's fun because during that development, you're talking with people, artists, and you got a little bit of tight knit, and you're like, hey, we're having fun here. And I feel like they're the best games you make at the end of the day. The friends we make.
I want to put a name to the worst game I made. It was called Giant Potato Monkey. You hunted a big robot monkey that was pooping all over a underwater shopping center, loads of garbage, and you had to vacuum it up with your vacuum hands, which also served as jets that you could fly around the level, and also you could recharge. You had a gun. I don't know. It was terrible. But like the point is, like we smashed so many things together, and it was a nice little experiment. We learned a lot from it, and that's the thing. The worst game that you can make can also be the most memorable to you and the most like the best learning experience for you as well. And it could be a funny little.
What was that name again?
Giant Potato Monkey.
Giant Potato Monkey. How about that?
Never got released. Don't look for it.
Oh, never got released. Oh, okay. Maybe the trademark was already taken. You want to ask another question? Okay. I don't know. Is that allowed? All right. Okay. We're going to do one more question. I'm sorry. Let's not go a question again. Let's head over into that corner if we can.
Oh, that's loud.
Go on. Whisper to the cube.
What ideas like you generally have for what game did you make where you had like when you were making it and then you realized, oh wait, I can do this much easier, and you start doing it easier and then you realize that actually wouldn't work?
Okay,
I've had that a few times.
That's a quite specific question.
Design processes, development processes.
So it made it easier, but then it made it worse.
Yeah. So like,
That-
in the short time it made it easier, but in the long time it didn't.
You know what? That's actually a really common occurrence in
Yeah,
game development. Like that is part of what we would call the iteration cycle of development. So you try something that you have an idea for how something might work. You try it out, and if it doesn't work, then you go back and you try and find something that works a little bit better. It's actually kind of core to the process of making games. So you're on the nail, hit the nail on the head.
I have one. So it's specific to programmers. So what programmers do is they think they're really smart. But they are really smart, but they always think that they're smarter than all the other programmers. So when we work in a team where multiple people work on the same thing, one programmer finishes something, the other programmer looks at it and looks at it like, oh my God, that's the worst thing I've seen in my life.
It happens so much, man.
It does. It
It really does.
And then the second programmer is like, I can do much better. They start typing, they spend time on making it better. They finish it, it doesn't work half the time. It takes a long time to finish. They finish it. It goes back to the first programmer who implemented it in the first place, looks at it like, oh my God, what the hell happened to that? It's the worst thing I've seen in my life. It happens every single day in the industry.
Yeah,
not really stopping it.
programmers literally can't look at another programmer's code. That is an absurdly common occurrence.
Very accurate, isn't it? I guess over-scoping. There's a lot of times where you just say a very simple task, and it happens constantly, where you say, okay, we want the players to have an inventory system. Yeah, you could just have a list of items. It doesn't need to be complicated. But then someone goes, oh, we need to do this, and they add this, and they add this, and they add this, and it goes back to your feature creep, where you start overcomplicating this. Even, I guess a better example is tools. If you're building a tool for a game, and it just turns into something that was meant to be simple for a designer or someone in game to use, and now it's unusable because sometimes simple is better.
Yeah, as much as you've said overscoping, I'm going to go with underscoping. There is a specific example in mind. I won't actually go into that specific detail, but it's where you're trying to get a feature in the game. You really want to include the feature. You just don't have the funds or the resource available to do it. So you find the kind of crap version of it that still kind of broadly looks like the feature. So you've kind of underscoped it. You kind of knew that it wasn't the full thing, but you put it in anyway. The example I'm thinking of, we did that with a tool that then other parts of the team would then have to use in order to create content for the game. And that slight saving that we thought we had on the tool would end up becoming months and months of effort for those people that had to use said tool, because we didn't actually just pay the price up front and make the tool the way it should have been made.
I guess a better word I should have used is overcomplicating.
Yeah, yours is like feature creep. It's like we had an idea and this, and this, and this, and this.
Or just overcomplicating a simple idea. And yeah, there's 1,000 ways to program one thing. And sometimes that simplest solution is the best. Or
Simple is good.
And sometimes
Simple
if you're
is
like, yeah, we can add a linked list in to do this. Oh, but we should think about making it more general. And adding all these like to one thing, it can take time, which is time is money. And end user experience can really decline because no one knows how to use a system that you need 20 pages of docs like.
There is a point I need to make on that as well. That so there are many, many ways, and that's a really good point. There are many ways of doing one thing when you make a game. You can look at we call them problems, but when you try to make something, you can look at a problem and say, oh, I can do it this way. And then you think about it, I can do it this way as well. Or I can do it this way. And then suddenly you have way too many options. You have way too many ways of, like, I don't know which one to start because, I don't know. So the good solution in there is just start. Pick one, go through it, see if it works. If it doesn't, step back a few steps and then start again with a different direction. This is learning. This is how you learn to make it.
What a lot of developers would do in that situation would bring somebody else in and then have an argument over which of these correct ideas is the correct idea, even though there'd be a collective acknowledgement that all four of these options would get us there. But you'll then have a 2-week-long argument over which of those correct answers is the most correct.
Until you wear someone down and they just go, yeah. yeah, you're right. And you're like,
It's like having like multiple captains on different ships trying to charter the seas, and like, oh no, we should go this direction, we should go that direction.
I think
Like,
I think people are comfortable when things are binary. This is correct and this is incorrect, and when there are 6 correct and 1 incorrect, you can then really get into the argument over which of the 6 correct is the one. When I think you were right. It's like it'll work. We believe in all of them. You just got to pick one and go for it. And cool. I think we're out of time. All right. Am I doing the outro? All right. Okay. Well, all right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for those excellent questions. I think some really good ones up at the back there. Thank you very much. I hope you found that useful. I hope you found that in some way enlightening. We'll be on the show floor, I believe, if you need to come and grab us. Certainly me and you will be. I don't know if you guys have...
I'll hang about for it.
You go around. Okay.
I'll hang around for it.
we'll chit-chat.
All right. Fellow panelists, thank you very much for taking the time. Audience, you've been amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you.